Aloha and good afternoon. Thanks for joining us right here on This Is Now. I'm Dylan Ancheta and Mark is in for Ashley today. We begin with the investigation into the mass shooting outside of a Dallas mall.
The massacre left 8 people dead with 7 others injured, and police are looking into a link to a neo-Nazi group. Omar Villafranca has the latest.
Mourners in Allen, Texas, stopped by the growing memorial to the victims of this weekend's mass shooting. Dozens of shots rang out at the busy outlet mall near Dallas on Saturday.
When I started to hear the rapid fire, the non-stop fire, that's when I knew it was real.
Joshua Barnwell was shopping for new jeans when the gunfire started. He rushed to help the victims.
There were so many injuries, I couldn't even come close to compress every area.
Would you want to talk to the people that you helped?
I would, and not for any glad handing. I would just want to see them and let them know that I'm glad they're here. I really am.
Law enforcement sources tell CBS News the shooter, seen here in dashcam video we've frozen, was wearing body armor and was heavily armed. Police say he was killed by an officer who happened to be at the mall. 2 law enforcement sources tell CBS News that the shooter had a patch on his clothing that said RWDS. They believe that stands for Right-Wing Death Squad, associated with extremist right-wing neo-Nazi groups. An Army spokesperson says the shooting suspect joined the service in 2008, but never completed basic training. An Army official tells CBS News his separation 3 months later was because of physical or mental conditions. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Allen, Texas.
Also in Texas, an SUV plowed into a group of people outside a migrant shelter in Brownsville. 8 were killed and several others were injured Sunday morning. Law enforcement officials are looking into whether the driver rammed into the crowd intentionally. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez has the details and a warning: some of the video may be graphic to some viewers.
Authorities here in Brownsville, Texas have charged the driver of that SUV with 8 counts of manslaughter. They identify him as George Alvarez and say that he has an extensive criminal record. And they say that early Sunday morning, he ran a red light here in Brownsville in front of this migrant shelter and lost control of his vehicle, slamming into a group of migrants, mostly men from Venezuela, and that 8 of those migrants were killed. 10 others were injured. Now that suspect has again been arrested. He tried to flee the scene, police say, before he was apprehended by some of the onlookers here. Again, he's now been charged with 8 counts of manslaughter. But authorities have not ruled out whether this might have been intentional. That's something they're looking at. We spoke with one migrant here on the scene who says that he witnessed the driver yell anti-immigrant slurs as he was trying to flee the scene, and that he appeared drunk. Authorities have not substantiated that. They say they're waiting on the toxicology report, but it's all part of the ongoing investigation. Of course, this comes just days before the COVID border restriction known as Title 42 is set to be lifted, and authorities here at the border expect that it will prompt yet another migrant influx here at the border. The city of Brownsville, Texas is one of those communities across the border that has already been seeing an uptick in migrants over the last several weeks. And so there are questions about how the lifting of Title 42 will play out in the coming days. Meanwhile, here in Brownsville, this community is in shock. A makeshift memorial here is growing. But again, that suspect charged with 8 counts of manslaughter now being held on $3.6 million bail. Back to you.
U.S. officials are preparing for a surge of migrants at the southern border as Title 42 is set to expire this week. It is the government policy that enabled border officers to expel migrants during the pandemic. This Thursday, House Republicans will be voting on a border security package that would keep a policy that says migrants have to remain in Mexico as they go through the asylum process. If it passes, it's not expected to get through the Democratic-led Senate.
Honolulu police are investigating after a woman says she was attacked and sexually assaulted inside a restroom at Ala Moana Center. It happened around 1 a.m. Sunday. Law enforcement sources say the suspect followed the woman into the restroom near Mai Tais. That's where the stranger allegedly choked her and forced himself on the victim. This is the 3rd time in recent months that Ala Moana Center's restrooms have reportedly been the scene of a crime. Earlier this year, there were 2 separate incidents involving alleged peeping Toms. We've reached out to the mall for comment, and they have deferred to Honolulu police.
HPD is investigating a sex assault case involving a 14-year-old female victim. A woman reported to police that a 21-year-old man sexually assaulted her child starting on March 11th in the Kapolei Barbers Point area. The suspect was taken into custody in Mililani Saturday morning. He's being held on more than 20 counts of sex assault.
Well, last week, military officials released a video of an AFFF spill at Red Hill. And joining us now is Mahealani Richardson, who was there at that press conference. Mahea, there was so much to unpack. Tell us a little bit. Give us a recap of what we learned there.
Well, first of all, just to recap, that spill happened last November. It was 1,300 gallons of AFFF. That's that toxic firefighting foam that firefighters use to put out a fuel fire. And there was this spill at Red Hill. And it took 20 minutes for contractors and workers to discover it. And so when they released that video, you could see this, it looks like water, basically a watery substance going under a doorway. This was captured on a surveillance camera. And then as the video plays on, that was what was really interesting. You see contract workers and other workers come to the spill. They're wearing their white protective outfits, and they put down absorbent pads. And then you see more of the substance. It's like a foamy substance come out from under the door. And then you see workers walk back and forth. And Vice Admiral John Wade, who is the commander of the Red Hill Task Force, said that it was very dangerous for these workers to be walking in this toxic substance without any protective gear on. He blamed a contractor for the spill. He apologized for the spill and also said that it was caused by human error and that it was a preventable mishap.
Mm-hmm. And we also saw some images of a red pump that he said was the source of the failure. Is that correct? Something to do with that contract work?
That's right. They said that it was caused by improper installation of an air vacuum valve. So that was that red pump. And they clearly blamed the contractor Kinetics. They said that there was a failure to disable the pumps from automatically starting during testing. Now, even though the military did squarely blame that contractor, Vice Admiral John Wade also said that it was the fault of the Navy and the contractor itself for failure to oversee this problem. And so, the big question from our end is, what about accountability? And so right now, this particular investigation is with the Department of the Navy, the U.S. Navy, and they will decide on necessary actions with personnel and their contractors.
And in terms of potential criminal charges, I know we've done some reporting so far on the investigation. Can you give us the latest on that?
Right. So about 3 weeks ago, Hawaii News Now broke the story that there was a federal criminal investigation into the Red Hill spills. And so when we were at this news conference, I asked Vice Admiral John Wade, we've already reported that there is a federal criminal investigation. Did this investigation in any way hinder the release of the AFFF video, which people have been asking for, or did it hinder the investigation into the spill? And he flatly said no. And then I followed up with a follow-up question. Has this investigation hindered your job at all? He's in the middle of organizing the complete defueling of Red Hill, and he quickly said, no, it has not.
And we do know that our Lynn Kawano also has a story coming up tonight. Can you tell us a little bit about what we can expect from that?
That's right. Our chief investigative reporter, Lynn Kawano, has been looking into this for quite some time. And she is going to be reporting tonight on this federal grand jury investigation. It's going to be quite a stunning report tonight at Hawaii News Now at 6 o'clock. So there's a grand jury investigation into the Red Hill spills. And some of the witnesses that you will see are high-ranking military officials.
Got it. Well, Mahealani, thank you for staying on top of all the news out of Red Hill. We definitely appreciate your insight on this topic. Again, that was our Mahealani Richardson joining us here on This Is Now.
A 26-year-old man needed to be rescued after falling about 15 feet while on the Mokolua Islands off of Oahu. Ocean safety crews were called just after 12:30 Sunday afternoon and found the man with multiple abrasions and an injured knee. He was brought to Kailua Beach via jet ski. EMS transported him to the hospital in serious condition.
Now to a hazard alert at Kailua Bay, where people are being urged to stay out of the water because of elevated bacteria levels. That's an extremely popular stretch of beach among residents and visitors alike. There are surfers, sailors, paddlers, swimmers, and more in that water every day. Now, the city has been regularly testing the area since April after heavy rains. Repeated tests have shown elevated levels of Enterococcus bacteria near the Kailua wastewater treatment plant. Officials tell us 2 readings were more than 6 times the limit set by the Department of Health. Warning signs have been posted, and they'll remain up until the advisory is lifted. We'll continue tracking this story and bring you more.
On Molokai, rising tensions over land access on Molokai Ranch. And as Eddie Dowd reports, residents say it is history repeating itself.
This weekend, more than 100 Molokai residents gathered to march on Molokai Ranch, demanding to have open access to private land to get to areas of cultural importance.
This is a sign that was posted on Molokai Ranch lands in 1975.
Native Hawaiian activist Walter Riddy remembers when he was a young adult and joined others marching on the private land nearly 50 years ago to get access to the beach and hunting grounds in the area that his kupuna once visited.
We were getting stories from our elders about how they used to go to the beach. So the question we said, "What, Auntie, how you guys got the key to go in there?" And they said, "Oh no, never have gates, never have locks."
Riddy says those conversations led to the original march on the ranch in 1975, calling for the removal of the lock on the gate to get to the cultural areas of importance to Native Hawaiians.
We had to take down a fence in order to have access, because the fence went all the way down into the water, and we knew that the public domain starts from the high water mark. So we took down the fence. It's the first time Hawaiians ever marched, period. I mean, it was like, you don't do those things.
Riddy says the locks were removed after the march, and 3 years later, in 1978, activists were able to get a change in the state constitution. The change protected Native Hawaiians' rights to subsistence, cultural, and religious exercises, but the state could still regulate those rights.
I'm going to tell a young generation, our generation put it into the Constitution. Now it's your job to take it to the legislature and put some meat on it.
This weekend, Riddy, now almost 80, found himself marching again after the community recently found out the gate had been locked.
Here we are, walking again 48 years later.
The ranch, owned by a Hong Kong-based firm, is run by Molokai Properties Limited. Its general manager told HNN the gate was put in place to deter unauthorized hunting vehicles from accessing the land because it is a serious safety risk if scheduled hunts are going on. He says they are respectful to the community's cultural needs and allow for them to schedule times in advance to visit the area. But Riddy says it's history repeating itself and Native Hawaiians need open access.
I guess I'm going to call them the land back gang.
On Saturday, he was joined by other residents, cutting the chain locking the gate and marching on the property.
For us, it took 45 years before we had to walk again.
Molokai Properties Limited says it is aware of Saturday's activity and it did not grant permission to the activists to cross its property. It also expressed disappointment with what it calls misinformation and the property damage from the protest. Eddie Dowd, Hawaii News Now.
The city is set to embark on a major road rehabilitation project in downtown Honolulu. Starting today, several of the major streets in the area will be undergoing renovations, including Bishop, King, Punchbowl, and the Pali Highway. Some of the improvements planned include reconstructing roads and curbs and the modification of traffic signs and signals. The work will be done 7 days a week, initially during daytime hours. But on May 22nd, the work will expand to include nighttime and overnight. Drivers in the area can expect delays and possible detours. The project is set to be completed by mid-November.
The FDA is warning that more than 500,000 at-home COVID tests should be thrown out immediately due to concerns of bacterial contamination in the liquid solution. The warning was issued for tests that are from Roche and SD Biosensor. The tests were distributed to CVS and Amazon. And so far, the FDA says it has not received any reports of injuries or deaths linked to contaminated tests. But some users may have received false negative or false positive results. You can find the entire list of recalled lot numbers on the FDA's website. And let's take you outside right now. A live look at sunny Southern California. I guess this is a trend that has been continuing from the weekend because it was a stunning weekend here in the islands. You look at the mainland right now. What kind of weather is ahead as we head through the work week? Let's check in with Guy Hoggy.
And you notice with the rainfall model, there's not a lot. If anything, we'll have a few showers in the overnight and early morning hours tomorrow, but most of the rain will be light. Then after that, starting on Wednesday, light winds take over. And if anything, we might have some pop-up showers, but organized rainfall, not expected. So this is what we're looking at over the next 7 days. At least for the next 2, it's going to be breezy today and tomorrow. It's going to be comfortable. We'll have lots of sunshine. We'll have some showers in the early morning and overnight hours favoring windward sides, but they'll be moving through quickly, so rainfall buildups will be minimal. And then the weather changes. We lose those trade winds, those strong trade winds starting on Wednesday. It's a long run of light variable winds, and that changes the weather pattern, right? Instead of morning showers, we'll have morning sunshine. And then we'll get afternoon clouds building up tall and thick and dark around the mountain areas, and they will spawn a few pop-up showers. That's going to be the weather pattern into next week, but still lots of sunshine and basically calm conditions.
Now to some travel news. Government data shows about 3% of flights were canceled in 2022. Many airlines cover the cost of rebooking and hotels, but policies vary. Now, the president is proposing new rules to make compensation mandatory. Skylar Henry reports from the White House.
The Department of Transportation says more than 180,000 flights were canceled last year. In December, a scheduling and staffing meltdown at Southwest left thousands of holiday travelers stranded.
I was supposed to fly back on Monday the 26th. Found out I couldn't get back until Thursday.
The Biden administration says it's working on new regulations that would require airlines to compensate passengers for non-weather-related delays and cancellations that are within the carrier's control.
Our top priority has been to get American air travelers a better deal.
The rules could require airlines go beyond a ticket refund and include compensation for meals, hotel rooms, transportation, and rebookings.
Airlines need to accept their fundamental responsibility to better serve passengers.
The airline industry says more than half of cancellations in 2022 and 2023 have been caused by factors it can't control, including extreme weather and air traffic system outages.
These rules are unnecessary.
Nicholas Callio is president and CEO of Airlines for America and says new regulations in Europe led to higher airfare prices.
We have no incentive to delay or cancel a flight. When that happens and it's within our control, we do everything we can to make our passengers whole.
But the Biden administration wants to make it a mandatory rule, though it won't happen soon. It could be anywhere from 12 months to 2 years before the regulations take effect. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Japan businesses are doing away with COVID measures as the government has downgraded the threat level of coronavirus. Many companies are getting rid of plastic sheets that separated customers between employees. Mask wearing is now optional, and temperature checks are no longer mandatory. Government leaders now classify COVID at the same level as influenza.
Well, time to check out some news from the feeds. And Mark, we are still buzzing about the coronation of King Charles. Take a listen. Yes, as you hear there, everyone singing, proclaiming, God save the King. King Charles and Queen Camilla were crowned over the weekend, and I'm just still in awe at all of the pomp and the pageantry of London and the coronation, just magical stuff. Of course, the day filled with ceremony. The highlight, of course, was the famous balcony shot. As you can see, thousands, I don't know, maybe even 1 million people lined the streets of London, all for a glimpse of the royals there. And at one point, there was also a royal flyover, which was scaled back a little bit because of the weather there, but nonetheless, an event truly fit for royals.
Well, the images that we see from this are just so remarkable. And, you know, what really is amazing and something that's so impressive to see is just the observance and you know, the strict adherence to the ceremony of it all, and making sure that everything is in line, and that, you know, when you see the protocol of something like this, that it is still intact from what we saw from hundreds of years ago with the monarchy.
Definitely. And we also today got some new images of King Charles III in his official royal portraits and Queen Camilla newly crowned there, as well as the family portrait. Just a beautiful, beautiful history there in
So
London.
Dylan, I learned a fun fact about you today. So you are fascinated by the royal family, and you're really into what we see from The Crown. Huh?
Who is it? I did get addicted to The Crown on Netflix. So have you watched it?
I've watched a few seasons. I stopped before they got into the Princess Diana season, so I guess I have to dive back into it.
You got to catch up.
and I had so many follow-up questions about just the line of succession now, how all this plays out. So I guess, I mean, not to jump ahead here, I know King Charles had his big moment, but this means William is next in line.
He is
then,
next
right?
in line, yes, and then of course his sons after that. So essentially, we will not in our lifetime see a queen, so to speak. For the next several generations, it will be God Save the King.
I see. So very impressive to see. Well, also this week in a story that we want to get to, a heartbreaking end to the season for the Rainbow Warriors men's volleyball team. A shot at a dynasty, at becoming a dynasty, came to an end. The national title game against UCLA. Kyle Chinen looks back and gives us a look at their storied run.
About 20 minutes away from our nation's capital here in Fairfax, Virginia, Hawaii's campaign for a third straight national title came to an end. The incumbent Bows falling to the Bruins in a 4-set thriller. Hawaii looking to make history tonight against one of their storied rivals in the first set. Hawaii and UCLA looking pretty equal on both sides of the net, going point for point throughout the set. Here's service sub Kana'i Akana coming in to dish out the ace, but the Bruins would ultimately take the set 28-26. Buckle up, folks. It's going to be a long one.
It's hard to describe even how much character and how much fight everyone on this team has. I didn't see a single point in the year where someone gave up on the point or gave up on the game. I think that we fought hard, and that's all that I can ask of my brothers.
In the second, Hawaii was down by 19-13 at one point, on the verge of giving up the set, but Hawaii showing some immense grit to grind their way back into it. One of those points coming from setter Jakob Tella, who notched his 122nd career ace, becoming Hawaii's career all-time leader.
Yeah, heart of a warrior. You know, I mean, they really, battled and played like champions, and there's a lot of fight in them.
Hawaii would have 7 set points before finally taking the set 33-31. UCLA would take set 3, and in the fourth, Hawaii on the verge of a loss kept battling to the very end, would fall in set 4, crowning the Bruins as the 2023 national champions.
I didn't know the result. We might win, we might lose, but all I knew is that if I give 100%, I'll just be proud of myself. I'll have no regrets, and that's what we did. Unfortunately, we didn't get the result we wanted.
The brotherhood that we have built over the years, the culture of brotherhood and excellence, that's something you can never take away from what we had done, and that's more important than the results that we achieved.
And you saw the team right there. I mean, nothing to be ashamed about. I mean, really just a magical run, a magical ride for this program. And when you look back at it, really could be one of the greatest stretches of University of Hawaii athletics right there, to have the volleyball team 4 straight national title game appearances, 2 straight national titles. So really amazing, and they are Hawaii's team. You saw a great send-off last night when they came back home, so good stuff.
They make us proud no matter what, and there was a lot of Hawaii fans there, so I'm sure they felt the mana and the aloha of everyone there.
They'll be back next year. And also, before we go, I want to give a quick shout-out to the Campbell Sabres softball team and the Kamehameha Warriors baseball team, clinching some state championships over the weekend. So
congratulations.
Really fun stuff to see out there.
Yeah, awesome. We're going to end today on the live look out over Coconut Island in Hilo. We thank you for spending your lunch break with us in the middle of the day right here on This Is Now.